The data sent back by the Unity changed everything. Scientists around the world worked day and night to understand the shadowy force moving through the vortex. They discovered that it wasn't hostile. It was simply vast, ancient, and indifferent. The beings within the energy field were unlike anything humanity could comprehend. Their migration path happened to intersect Earth's solar system, and if left unchecked, their passage would destroy everything in its wake. Laura Hayes called another global summit, this time with representatives from every corner of the planet. "We can't fight them," she said firmly, her voice echoing through the crowded room. "But maybe we don't have to. We've learned enough about their patterns to predict where they'll go next. If we can guide them safely past Earth, we might survive." The plan was risky but straightforward. Using the Veileth's knowledge, engineers developed a network of satellites equipped with powerful gravitational emitters. These devices would create artificial pathways, nudging the shadowy force away from Earth and toward empty regions of space. It was an ambitious project, requiring cooperation on a scale never seen before. For months, humanity worked as one. Factories churned out components for the satellites, while teams of astronauts assembled them in orbit. Farmers donated food to support workers, teachers inspired students to contribute ideas, and artists created campaigns to keep morale high. Even Victor Cole, once a fierce opponent of alien influence, joined the effort, using his charisma to rally people behind the cause. Finally, the day came when the first wave of satellites launched into position. As the shadowy force approached, the emitters activated, creating faint ripples in spacetime. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the massive entities shifted course, drawn toward the new paths laid out for them. Back on Earth, billions held their breath, watching live feeds from observatories and spacecraft. When the shadowy force passed harmlessly beyond the solar system, cheers erupted across the globe. Strangers hugged in the streets, families gathered around screens, and leaders shook hands, tears streaming down their faces. Humanity had done the impossible. They had protected their home. In the weeks that followed, Earth entered a new era. The unity forged during the crisis didn't fade. Nations dismantled old rivalries, focusing instead on collaboration and shared goals. Clean energy powered cities, advanced medicine cured diseases once thought incurable, and education became accessible to all. The Veileth's knowledge transformed every aspect of life, not by erasing human culture, but by enhancing it. Dr. Emily Carter continued her work, studying the remnants of the vortex and piecing together more of the Veileth's history. She often wondered what the ancient civilization would think of humanity now, how far they'd come in such a short time. Lieutenant Ryan Keller trained new generations of explorers, preparing them for future journeys into the stars. Jack Monroe's innovations sparked a golden age of technology, earning him recognition as one of history's greatest inventors. As for Laura Hayes, she retired from active duty, content knowing she played a role in shaping humanity's destiny. On quiet evenings, she liked to sit outside her home, gazing at the stars. Sometimes, she imagined the Veileth watching over them, proud of what they'd achieved. Other times, she thought about the shadowy force, wondering where it was now and what mysteries still lay hidden in the universe. One evening, Sam Bennett visited Laura, bringing 2 cups of tea. "You did good," Sam said, sitting beside her. "Not just you, all of us. We proved we're stronger together." Laura smiled softly, sipping her tea. "It wasn't easy," she admitted, "but I think we finally learned something important. Humanity isn't defined by our mistakes. It's defined by how we rise above them." Above them, the stars twinkled brightly, endless, and full of promise. For the first time in history, humanity looked up not with fear or doubt, but with hope. They had faced the unknown and emerged stronger, not because they were perfect, but because they refused to give up. And so, under the vast expanse of space, Earth began a new chapter. A chapter filled with challenges, discoveries, and dreams yet unimagined. Whatever came next, humanity knew one thing for certain. they would face it together. The crew stood frozen inside the alien structure, their hearts pounding as holographic figures floated before them. The translucent beings shimmered with soft colors, shifting and changing shape like living art. They didn't speak in words, but instead sent waves of emotions and vivid images directly into the minds of the humans. It was overwhelming, like being plunged into a dream that wasn't your own. Dr. Emily Carter clutched her scanner tightly, though she barely noticed it in her hands. Her mind raced as she tried to make sense of what she was experiencing. She saw flashes of planets, stars forming and dying, and strange cities floating in space. It felt like the beings were trying to tell a story, but the pieces didn't fit together yet. "What's happening?" whispered Ryan Keller, his voice tight with tension. He glanced around at the glowing walls, and then back at the holograms. His hand hovered near his weapon, ready for anything, even though he doubted a gun would do much against something this advanced. "I think they're communicating," Emily replied softly, her eyes wide with wonder. "But not in a way we're used to. It's hard to explain." Laura Hayes stepped forward cautiously, her boots making no sound on the smooth floor. She focused on the emotions flooding her mind. Feelings of curiosity, patience, and even kindness. Whatever these beings were, they didn't seem hostile. Still, she knew better than to let her guard down. "Can you understand them?" Laura asked, turning to Emily. "Not fully," Emily admitted. "But I think they're showing us their history. Look, these images might represent their past." As if responding to her words, the holograms shifted again. This time, clearer pictures formed. The crew watched as scenes unfolded before their eyes, scenes of a civilization thriving among the stars. There were massive ships traveling between galaxies, towering structures built on distant moons, and creatures working together in harmony. But then the tone changed. The bright colors faded, replaced by darker shades. Planets crumbled, stars exploded, and chaos reigned. "It's like they're telling us how they rose, and how they fell," Daniel Brooks said quietly from the back of the group. He had been silent until now, too stunned to speak. "Maybe they want us to learn from their mistakes." Ryan frowned, crossing his arms over his chest. "Or maybe they're warning us about something. Did you see those explosions? That could be us someday if we're not careful." Laura nodded slowly. She felt torn between awe and unease. These beings clearly had knowledge far beyond anything humanity possessed. But why share it now? And why with them? The holograms paused for a moment, then began to move again. This time, the images focused on Earth. The crew gasped as they recognized familiar landmarks. Their home planet surrounded by swirling clouds, its oceans glinting under sunlight. Then came glimpses of humanity itself, cities bustling with life, rockets launching into space, and people working together. "They know about us," Emily breathed, her voice trembling with excitement. "They've been watching." Before anyone could respond, the holograms flickered and vanished. The chamber grew quiet, the hum of the machinery fading slightly. For a few seconds, no one moved or spoke. The weight of what they'd just witnessed settled over them like a heavy blanket. "We need to figure out what this means," Laura said finally, breaking the silence. "This isn't just some random encounter. They chose to show us all of this for a reason." Emily nodded eagerly. "If we can decode their message, it could change everything. Imagine what we could learn from them." Ryan, however, wasn't convinced. "And imagine the risks. We don't even know who or what they really are. What if this is some kind of trap?" Laura understood his concerns, but she couldn't ignore the potential benefits. Humanity had always dreamed of meeting intelligent life beyond Earth. Now, here they were face to face with proof that such civilizations existed. Turning away wasn't an option, not when so much was at stake. "Let's gather what data we can and head back to the Odyssey," Laura instructed. "We'll analyze everything there and decide our next steps." The team quickly got to work, collecting readings and samples while keeping a wary eye on their surroundings. As they prepared to leave, Emily hesitated, glancing back at the glowing walls one last time. "Do you think they'll contact us again?" she asked softly. Laura shook her head. "I don't know. But whatever happens next, we'll face it together." With that, the crew boarded their shuttle and returned to the safety of the Odyssey, carrying with them more questions than answers, and the realization that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Back aboard the SS Odyssey, the crew gathered in the main meeting room. The atmosphere was tense but electric, like the calm before a storm. Everyone had questions, and no one had all the answers. Laura Hayes stood at the front of the room, her arms crossed as she looked around at her team. She could see the mix of excitement, fear, and curiosity on their faces. "We need to make sense of what we just saw," Laura began, her voice steady but firm. "Emily, you've been analyzing the data. What can you tell us?" Emily Carter adjusted her glasses and glanced down at her tablet. Her hands trembled slightly, but she forced herself to stay calm. "The holograms showed us their history, how they lived, how they advanced, and how they eventually disappeared." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "From what I can gather, these beings, they call themselves the Veilith, were once like us. They explored the stars, built incredible technology, and thrived for thousands of years. But then something changed." Daniel Brooks interrupted, leaning forward in his seat. "Those dark images, they weren't just random destruction. It felt like a warning." Emily nodded. "Exactly. The Veilith didn't just vanish because of natural disasters or wars. They chose to leave behind their physical forms. They became something else, something beyond our understanding. But before they did, they left structures like the one we found. They're like libraries, filled with their knowledge." Ryan Keller frowned, his brow furrowing. "So they're gone now. What's the point of leaving all this behind if they're not even here to explain it?" "That's the question, isn't it?" Emily replied. "I think they wanted to help others, to guide civilizations that might follow in their footsteps. But they also showed us Earth, which means they know about us. Maybe they're giving us a chance to avoid making the same mistakes they did." Laura listened intently, her mind racing. She thought back to the emotions the Veilith had shared, their kindness, their patience, and their sadness. There was something deeply personal about the way they communicated, almost like they cared about humanity's future. But why? And at what cost? "What kind of mistakes are we talking about?" Jack Monroe, the ship's engineer, asked. He had been quiet until now, but his curiosity got the better of him. "Are we supposed to stop exploring space? Stop building technology?" "No," Emily said quickly. "I don't think so. If anything, they want us to keep going, but wisely. One of the visions I saw, it showed two possible futures for Earth. In one, humanity used their knowledge to solve problems like hunger, disease, and climate change. We worked together and prospered. But in the other," she trailed off, her expression darkening. "In the other, we destroyed ourselves. Wars over resources, misuse of technology, greed, it all led to our downfall." The room fell silent as everyone processed her words. The weight of the revelation hung heavy in the air. Humanity had always dreamed of reaching the stars, but now they were being told that the path ahead was dangerous. Every choice mattered. "This changes everything," Samantha Sam Bennett said softly. As the ship's navigator, she rarely spoke during meetings, but her words carried weight. "If we bring this information back to Earth, it could save us, or tear us apart." Laura sighed, rubbing her temples. She knew Sam was right. Sharing the Veilith's message would come with risks. Governments might fight over control of the knowledge. Corporations could exploit it for profit. And ordinary people might panic, unsure of what to believe. "We have to be careful," Laura said finally. "This isn't just about us anymore. It's about all of humanity. Whatever we do next, we need to think it through." For the rest of the meeting, the crew debated their options. Some, like Emily, argued that they should share everything they'd learned. Others, like Ryan, believed they should keep the discovery secret until they understood it better. By the time the discussion ended, no decision had been made, but one thing was clear. The Vayleth's revelation had planted a seed of change, and there was no turning back. As the crew dispersed, Laura stayed behind, staring out the window at the endless expanse of space. For the first time, she felt both small and significant. Humanity had been given a gift, or perhaps a test. Either way, the responsibility rested on their shoulders. The days that followed were tense aboard the SS Odyssey. The crew was divided, and their disagreements began to show in small but noticeable ways. Meals in the cafeteria were quieter than usual, with people avoiding eye contact or speaking only in short, clipped sentences. Even the ship's corridors felt heavier, as though the air itself carried the weight of their conflicting opinions. Dr. Emily Carter spent most of her time in the lab, poring over the data they had collected from the Vayleth structure. Her excitement hadn't faded. If anything, it had grown stronger. She believed the Vayleth's knowledge could transform Earth, ending poverty, curing diseases, and solving environmental crises. But not everyone shared her optimism. Lieutenant Ryan Keller, for one, remained deeply skeptical. He didn't trust the Vayleth's intentions. "How do we know this isn't some kind of trick?" he asked during one heated discussion in the control room. "What if they're testing us? Or worse, what if they're setting us up to fail?" Emily bristled at his words. "You're being paranoid," she shot back. "They showed us their history, their struggles. They even warned us about our own future. That doesn't sound like a trap to me. It sounds like help." "Help we don't understand," Ryan countered. "We're talking about technology and ideas far beyond anything we've ever seen. What happens when someone misuses it? Or when governments start fighting over it? You think this is going to bring peace. It's going to cause chaos." Laura Hayes listened to the argument unfold, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She wanted to step in, to mediate, but part of her needed to hear what her crew truly thought. They weren't just debating the Vayleth's message. They were grappling with their own fears and hopes for humanity's future. Jack Monroe, the ship's engineer, added fuel to the fire. He had been tinkering with fragments of the Vayleth's data, trying to reverse engineer parts of it. "I don't care about the risks," he said bluntly. "This technology could solve Earth's energy problems overnight. Imagine unlimited clean power. No more drilling, no more pollution. We owe it to the planet to try." Ryan turned on him sharply. "And what if you screw it up? What if you create something dangerous? This isn't a game, Jack. One wrong move, and we could doom the entire species." The tension in the room was palpable. Laura finally stepped forward, raising her hands to silence them. "Enough," she said firmly. "Arguing isn't going to get us anywhere. We need to focus on what's best for humanity, not just for ourselves, but for everyone back on Earth." Her words quieted the group, but the divide remained. Some, like Emily and Jack, believed humanity should embrace the Vayleth's gift and use it to improve life on Earth. Others, like Ryan, feared the consequences of moving too quickly, or at all. Samantha Sam Bennett tried to bridge the gap. As the ship's navigator, she often played the role of peacemaker. "Maybe there's a middle ground," she suggested. "We don't have to share everything at once. We could release the information slowly, giving people time to adjust." Laura nodded thoughtfully. Sam's idea made sense, but it still left her with a difficult decision. How much should they reveal? And who should decide? The responsibility weighed heavily on her shoulders. That night, Laura sat alone in her quarters, staring at the stars through the small window. She replayed the Vayleth's message in her mind. Their kindness, their warnings, their hope for humanity's potential. She knew the choice before her wasn't simple. Sharing too little might waste an opportunity to save Earth. Sharing too much could lead to disaster. As she drifted off to sleep, one thing became clear. Whatever decision she made, It would change the course of human history forever. The crew of the SS Odyssey was preparing to leave the mysterious structure behind when something unexpected happened. Just as they were about to board their shuttle, the glowing walls of the chamber began to pulse more brightly. A low hum filled the air, growing louder and more intense with each passing second. The crew froze, unsure of what was coming next. Then, a new hologram appeared before them. A single figure this time, larger and clearer than the others. It radiated an aura of urgency, its colors shifting rapidly between shades of red and gold. Without words, it projected a series of images directly into their minds. The visions were chaotic. Exploding stars, swirling black holes, and strange, shadowy creatures moving through space. Fear gripped the crew as they realized the meaning behind the message. "They're warning us," Emily Carter whispered, her voice trembling. "Something's coming." "What is it?" Ryan Keller asked sharply, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon. "Is it some kind of attack?" "I don't think so," Daniel Brooks replied, his eyes wide with alarm. "It feels bigger than that. Look, it's not just targeting us. It's heading toward Earth." Laura Hayes stepped forward, her heart pounding. She focused on the emotions the hologram was sending, not anger or malice, but concern. "They're not the threat," she said firmly. "Whatever this is, it's something else, something dangerous." The hologram flickered and changed again, showing Earth surrounded by fiery streaks of light. The planet looked small and fragile, dwarfed by the approaching force. Then came glimpses of destruction, cities crumbling, oceans boiling, and skies darkened by smoke. The crew felt a wave of dread wash over them. "They're telling us there's no time to waste," Emily said urgently. "If we don't act, humanity might not survive." "But how are we supposed to stop something like that?" Jack Monroe asked, his usual confidence shaken. "We barely understand the Valith's technology as it is. How can we fight something we've never even seen?" Laura took a deep breath, her mind racing. She knew they couldn't face this alone. If the Valith were right, humanity would need to unite, and quickly. "We have to go back," she said finally. "We need to share this warning with Earth. They'll have to prepare for whatever's coming." Ryan frowned, his skepticism still strong. "And what if they panic? What if they don't believe us? We're asking people to trust alien knowledge without proof." "It doesn't matter if they believe us," Laura shot back. "What matters is that we give them a chance to survive. If we keep this to ourselves, we're condemning billions of people to die." The crew fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. None of them liked the idea of spreading fear, but none could deny the urgency of the situation. The Valith had entrusted them with this information for a reason, to protect humanity from a greater threat. As the shuttle returned to the SS Odyssey, the crew worked quickly to prepare for their journey home. Emily and Daniel sifted through the data they had collected, hoping to find anything that might help Earth defend itself. Jack tinkered with the ship's systems, trying to adapt what little they understood of the Valith's technology. Ryan kept watch, his eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of danger. Back in her quarters, Laura sat quietly, staring at the glowing stars outside. She thought about the responsibility resting on her shoulders. The Valith had given humanity a gift, and a warning. Whether Earth rose to meet the challenge or crumbled under the pressure depended on the choices they made now. As the engines roared to life and the SS Odyssey turned toward home, one thing was certain. Humanity's future was no longer in its own hands. The stakes had been raised, and the clock was ticking. Whatever was coming, Earth would have to face it together, or not at all. The journey back to Earth felt longer than ever. The crew of the SS Odyssey was quiet, each person lost in their own thoughts. Captain Laura Hayes spent most of her time pacing the bridge or staring out at the endless void of space. She replayed the Valith's warning over and over in her mind, the fiery streaks heading toward Earth, the shadowy force lurking behind them. It wasn't just a threat. It was a countdown. But how much time did humanity have? Days? Months? Years? Laura decided she needed someone to talk to, someone who could help her sort through the chaos in her head. She found Samantha Sam Bennett in the navigation room, charting their course home. Sam looked up as Laura entered, offering a small smile. "You look like you haven't slept in days," Sam said gently. "I haven't," Laura admitted, sitting down across from her. "I can't stop thinking about what we're bringing back. What if I make the wrong choice? What if I say too much or too little?" Sam leaned back in her chair, studying her captain carefully. "You're not alone in this, you know. We're all carrying the same weight. But no matter what happens, you've always made decisions based on what's best for everyone. That's why you're here." Laura sighed, rubbing her temples. "It's different this time. This isn't just about us anymore. Billions of lives are at stake. If we mishandle this, it could tear humanity apart, or worse." Sam nodded slowly. "I get that. But think about it this way. You're not deciding everything right now. You're just taking the first step. Once we're back, we'll work together with Earth's leaders and scientists. Humanity has faced challenges before, and we've always found a way to adapt." Her words brought Laura some comfort, but not enough to erase the doubt gnawing at her. Still, she knew Sam was right. Leadership meant making tough choices, even when the answers weren't clear. She resolved to focus on one thing at a time: getting home safely, sharing the Valeth's message responsibly, and preparing Earth for whatever was coming. When the SS Odyssey finally approached Earth's orbit, the crew gathered on the bridge to watch their home planet come into view. It looked beautiful from space, its blue oceans and swirling clouds glowing softly against the blackness of space. For a moment, everyone forgot their fears and simply marveled at the sight. But reality quickly set in. As they transmitted their initial report to Earth's communication hubs, governments and organizations scrambled to respond. News of the discovery spread like wildfire, sparking debates worldwide. Some hailed the Valeth's message as proof that humanity wasn't alone in the universe, a sign that they were destined for greatness. Others saw it as a dangerous gamble, warning that alien knowledge could lead to chaos. Dr. Emily Carter worked tirelessly to present the information in a way that emphasized hope and cooperation. At press conferences and meetings, she explained the Valeth's history, their transcendence, and their warning about the looming cosmic threat. Her calm demeanor and passion for science helped ease some fears, though skepticism remained. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Ryan Keller voiced his concerns to military leaders. He urged caution, reminding them that humanity couldn't afford to act recklessly. His warnings earned him both praise and criticism, but he stood by his beliefs. Engineer Jack Monroe focused on practical solutions, working with teams of scientists to adapt fragments of the Valeth's technology. Together, they developed prototypes for cleaner energy sources and advanced defense systems. Progress was slow, but every breakthrough gave people hope. Through it all, Laura stayed in constant contact with Earth's leaders, guiding them as best she could. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she refused to give up. Humanity had been given a second chance, a chance to rise above its flaws and unite against a common threat. As the days turned into weeks, Laura began to see glimmers of change. Nations that once argued over resources started sharing ideas and collaborating on projects. Ordinary people rallied together, inspired by the idea that humanity could overcome anything if they worked as one. For the first time since leaving the Valeth structure, Laura allowed herself to feel a spark of optimism. The journey ahead would be difficult, but humanity had taken the first step toward a brighter future. Whatever came next, they would face it together. When the SS Odyssey returned to Earth, the world changed almost overnight. News of the Valeth's existence spread faster than anyone could have imagined. Social media buzzed with theories. News outlets broadcast endless debates, and people gathered in streets and parks to discuss what it all meant. For the first time in history, humanity felt truly connected, not just to each other, but to something far greater. Captain Laura Hayes became a central figure in the chaos. She was invited to speak at global summits, where leaders from every nation listened intently as she described the Veilith's structure, their message, and the looming threat. Her calm and steady voice helped ease some fears, though many still struggled to grasp the enormity of what she was saying. Dr. Emily Carter also found herself thrust into the spotlight. She traveled around the world, giving lectures and demonstrations to explain the Veilith's knowledge. "This isn't just about technology," she told crowds of scientists, students, and ordinary citizens. "It's about how we think, how we live, and how we treat each other. The Veilith showed us both our potential and our flaws. Now it's up to us to decide which path we take." But not everyone welcomed the changes. Some groups rejected the Veilith's message outright, calling it unnatural or even dangerous. A faction known as the Guardians emerged, led by a fiery speaker named Victor Cole. He argued that humanity should reject alien influence entirely. "We don't need their help," Victor shouted during one televised rally. "Their ways aren't ours. If we rely on their knowledge, we'll lose who we are. Humanity must stand on its own." His words resonated with many who feared losing control over their future. Protests erupted in cities worldwide, with thousands chanting slogans like "Stay Human" and "No Alien Control." Tensions grew as governments debated how much of the Veilith's data to release publicly, and how quickly. Amid the turmoil, Jack Monroe worked tirelessly in labs alongside teams of engineers and physicists. Using fragments of the Veilith's technology, they developed groundbreaking solutions to some of Earth's biggest problems. One breakthrough came in the form of an energy generator capable of producing clean, limitless power. Another invention was a device that could purify polluted water within seconds. These innovations gave people hope, showing them that the Veilith's knowledge could improve lives without erasing human identity. Lieutenant Ryan Keller focused on security, training military forces to prepare for the unknown threat heading toward Earth. He coordinated with international agencies to create defense systems inspired by the Veilith's designs. Though progress was slow, his efforts reassured those who worried about Earth's vulnerability. As weeks turned into months, a fragile sense of unity began to emerge. Governments set aside old rivalries to work together. Scientists shared discoveries freely, and communities came together to support each other. Art, music, and literature flourished as people expressed their hopes and fears about the future. Humanity had never been more divided or more united. Laura watched it all unfold with cautious optimism. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There were still disagreements, protests, and moments of doubt, but she also saw signs of resilience and courage, qualities that defined humanity at its best. One evening, Laura stood on a balcony overlooking a bustling city. Lights twinkled below, and the hum of life filled the air. Sam joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You did it," Sam said softly, handing 1 cup to Laura. "You brought us together." Laura shook her head. "Not me. All of us. This wasn't my victory. It was humanity's." Sam smiled. "Either way, it's a start. And maybe that's all we needed." For the first time in months, Laura felt a deep sense of peace. The journey had been long and difficult, but humanity was finally moving forward. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them, not as individuals, but as one species united by hope and determination. The fragile unity on Earth didn't last long. As humanity struggled to adapt to the Veilith's knowledge, tensions between those who embraced it and those who rejected it reached a boiling point. The Guardians, led by Victor Cole, grew bolder in their opposition. They saw the rapid adoption of alien technology as a threat to human identity and freedom. One night, under the cover of darkness, the Guardians launched an attack. Their target was one of Jack Monroe's research facilities, a lab where engineers were developing energy generators based on the Veilith's designs. The explosion shattered windows, destroyed equipment, and sent shockwaves through nearby neighborhoods. Though no one was killed, the message was clear. The Guardians would stop at nothing to halt humanity's reliance on alien influence. The attack sparked outrage across the globe. Some condemned the Guardians as extremists, while others sympathized with their cause. Protests erupted once again, this time turning violent in several cities. People clashed in the streets, shouting over each other, unable to find common ground. It seemed that the very thing the Valeth had warned about, division and conflict, was coming true. Laura Hayes watched the chaos unfold from her office at United Earth Command, a newly formed organization tasked with coordinating humanity's response to the cosmic threat. She felt a deep sense of frustration. "We're wasting time," she muttered to herself as she stared at reports of riots and sabotage. "If we don't focus on what's coming, we won't survive." Sam Bennett stood nearby, her arms crossed. "It's not just about survival anymore," she said quietly. "People are scared. They don't know who to trust." Laura nodded, knowing Sam was right. Fear was driving people apart, clouding their judgment. She decided to address the world directly, hoping to remind everyone of the bigger picture. In a live broadcast watched by billions, Laura spoke plainly and honestly. "I understand your fears," she began, looking straight into the camera. "Change is hard, especially when it comes from something unfamiliar. But we can't afford to fight among ourselves. There's a real danger out there, a force powerful enough to destroy us all. If we turn against each other now, we've already lost." Her words resonated with many, but not everyone was convinced. Victor Cole dismissed her speech as propaganda, accusing Laura and her team of manipulating the public. "She wants you to believe in aliens because it gives her power," he shouted during a rally. "Don't let them control your future." Despite the backlash, Laura pressed on. She worked closely with Ryan Keller to strengthen Earth's defenses, ensuring that resources were allocated wisely. Meanwhile, Emily Carter continued to educate the public, focusing on how the Valeth's knowledge could improve lives without erasing human culture. Her calm explanations helped ease some fears, though resistance remained strong. Then came another blow. The Guardians sabotaged a prototype spacecraft designed to explore the approaching cosmic threat. The loss set back research efforts significantly, forcing scientists to start from scratch. Jack Monroe, devastated by the setback, locked himself in his workshop for days, determined to rebuild. But amid the turmoil, small acts of courage began to shine through. Ordinary citizens started organizing peace marches, calling for unity despite their differences. Artists painted murals depicting humanity standing together under the stars. Teachers used stories of the Valeth to inspire students to think beyond borders and prejudices. Laura noticed these moments of hope and held on to them tightly. She knew humanity wasn't perfect. It never had been. But its ability to come together in times of crisis was what made it special. One evening, as she walked through a park near her home, Laura saw children playing beneath a statue dedicated to space exploration. One boy pointed up at the stars and said, "Maybe one day we'll go there too." His friend grinned and replied, "Yeah, and we'll protect it." For the first time in weeks, Laura smiled. Humanity still had a long way to go, but its spirit hadn't been broken. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she believed they could face them together. Just as humanity seemed to be tearing itself apart, the cosmic threat hinted at by the Valeth began to reveal itself. Strange phenomena started occurring across the solar system, things that couldn't be ignored. Satellites detected gravitational anomalies near Jupiter, causing its moons to shift unpredictably. Astronomers reported unexplained bursts of radiation coming from deep space. And then there were the sightings. Massive, shadowy objects moving at impossible speeds between planets. At first, many dismissed these events as natural occurrences or errors in data. But when a mining station on Mars lost contact after reporting something huge passing overhead, panic spread quickly. The Guardians, who had once denied the existence of any alien danger, found themselves struggling to explain what was happening. Even Victor Cole grew quieter, his fiery speeches losing their edge as evidence mounted. Laura Hayes called an emergency meeting at United Earth Command. Scientists, military leaders, and government officials gathered around a large table, their faces grim. Daniel Brooks stood at the front, projecting images and readings onto a screen. "Whatever this is," he said, pointing to a series of strange patterns, "it's heading straight for us." Emily Carter stepped forward, her voice steady but urgent. "This matches what the Valith showed us. They warned us about this, a force capable of destroying entire civilizations. We don't know exactly what it is, but we do know one thing. If we don't act now, Earth won't stand a chance." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. For years, humanity had argued over whether to trust the Valith's message. Now there was no more time for debate. The threat was real, and it was coming fast. Ryan Keller spoke next, his tone firm and practical. "We need to focus all our resources on defense. Every nation, every organization. We have to work together. If we're divided, we'll fail." To everyone's surprise, Victor Cole appeared at the meeting later that day. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by a look of unease. "I've seen the reports," he admitted reluctantly. "If what you're saying is true, then we've made a mistake. Humanity can't fight this alone. Maybe the Valith were right to warn us." His words shocked many, but they also marked a turning point. Slowly, nations began to set aside their differences. Weapons factories shifted production to build defensive systems inspired by the Valith's designs. Engineers worked around the clock to repair damaged prototypes and develop new technologies. Communities came together to support the effort, volunteering time, resources, and skills. Jack Monroe emerged as a hero during this time. After weeks of relentless work, he unveiled a new spacecraft equipped with advanced propulsion and shielding based on the Valith's knowledge. It wasn't perfect, but it was humanity's best hope for investigating the approaching threat up close. Laura named the ship Unity, symbolizing the cooperation that had made it possible. As the Unity launched into space, billions watched live broadcasts from Earth. Cheers erupted in cities around the world, mixing with tears of relief and determination. For the first time in months, humanity felt united, not by fear, but by purpose. The Unity traveled farther than any human-made vessel before it, venturing deep into the solar system. Its crew faced dangers no one could have predicted, from electrical storms caused by the anomaly to sudden shifts in gravity that nearly destroyed the ship. But they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that Earth's survival depended on them. When they finally reached the source of the disturbance, they discovered something beyond comprehension. A swirling vortex of energy, unlike anything science had ever recorded. Within it, faint shapes moved, too fast to identify. The crew sent back images and readings, hoping someone on Earth could decipher them. Back home, Emily and her team worked tirelessly to analyze the data. What they found was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The vortex was a gateway, connecting Earth's universe to another dimension. The shadowy force glimpsed earlier was part of an ancient civilization, one far older and more powerful than the Valith. The data sent back by the Unity changed everything. Scientists around the world worked day and night to understand the shadowy force moving through the vortex. They discovered that it wasn't hostile. It was simply vast, ancient, and indifferent. The beings within the energy field were unlike anything humanity could comprehend. Their migration path happened to intersect Earth's solar system, and if left unchecked, their passage would destroy everything in its wake. Laura Hayes called another global summit, this time with representatives from every corner of the planet. "We can't fight them," she said firmly, her voice echoing through the crowded room. "But maybe we don't have to. We've learned enough about their patterns to predict where they'll go next. If we can guide them safely past Earth, we might survive." The plan was risky but straightforward. Using the Valith's knowledge, engineers developed a network of satellites equipped with powerful gravitational emitters. These devices would create artificial pathways, nudging the shadowy force away from Earth and toward empty regions of space. It was an ambitious project, requiring cooperation on a scale never seen before. For months, humanity worked as one. Factories churned out components for the satellites, while teams of astronauts assembled them in orbit. Farmers donated food to support workers, teachers inspired students to contribute ideas, and artists created campaigns to keep morale high. Even Victor Cole, once a fierce opponent of alien influence, joined the effort, using his charisma to rally people behind the cause. Finally, the day came when the first wave of satellites launched into position. As the shadowy force approached, the emitters activated, creating faint ripples in spacetime. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the massive entities shifted course, drawn toward the new paths laid out for them. Back on Earth, billions held their breath, watching live feeds from observatories and spacecraft. When the shadowy force passed harmlessly beyond the solar system, cheers erupted across the globe. Strangers hugged in the streets, families gathered around screens, and leaders shook hands, tears streaming down their faces. Humanity had done the impossible. They had protected their home. In the weeks that followed, Earth entered a new era. The unity forged during the crisis didn't fade. Nations dismantled old rivalries, focusing instead on collaboration and shared goals. Clean energy powered cities, advanced medicine cured diseases once thought incurable, and education became accessible to all. The Veilith's knowledge transformed every aspect of life, not by erasing human culture, but by enhancing it. Dr. Emily Carter continued her work, studying the remnants of the vortex and piecing together more of the Veilith's history. She often wondered what the ancient civilization would think of humanity now, how far they'd come in such a short time. Lieutenant Ryan Keller trained new generations of explorers, preparing them for future journeys into the stars. Jack Monroe's innovations sparked a golden age of technology, earning him recognition as one of history's greatest inventors. As for Laura Hayes, she retired from active duty, content knowing she played a role in shaping humanity's destiny. On quiet evenings, she liked to sit outside her home, gazing at the stars. Sometimes, she imagined the Veilith watching over them, proud of what they'd achieved. Other times, she thought about the shadowy force, wondering where it was now and what mysteries still lay hidden in the universe. One evening, Sam Bennett visited Laura, bringing 2 cups of tea. "You did good," Sam said, sitting beside her. "Not just you, all of us. We proved we're stronger together." Laura smiled softly, sipping her tea. "It wasn't easy," she admitted, "but I think we finally learned something important. Humanity isn't defined by our mistakes. It's defined by how we rise above them." Above them, the stars twinkled brightly, endless, and full of promise. For the first time in history, humanity looked up not with fear or doubt, but with hope. They had faced the unknown and emerged stronger, not because they were perfect, but because they refused to give up. And so, under the vast expanse of space, Earth began a new chapter. A chapter filled with challenges, discoveries, and dreams yet unimagined. Whatever came next, humanity knew one thing for certain: they would face it together.